The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
And I'm proud to have one of my best friends in the wrestling business here to join the show, my good buddy, Diamond Dallas Page. Dallas, welcome to the show.
Hey, dude, I got to tell you, that was an awesome little thing back and forth with you and Mo. You got to have him on as a guest.
Well, me and Mo are also living together. We weren't going to tell you that. Two straight cats trying to form a podcast and make a little headway so we can get paid out of this gig. We're tired of working for free.
I got to put over, too. I just got the on it. I don't know about all the brain stuff, and you know me. I'll try anything. If it works, I'm going to do it. But I'll tell you one thing that flipped me out. The hemp protein powder, the chocolate hemp protein powder, is the best protein powder ever.
Dude, now work with me a little bit here. They sent me the hemp protein powder, but I never tried it because I didn't think it had enough grams for me. Do you dig it that much? Because if you're going to recommend it, I got a can of it in my cabinet.
Dude, hemp is one of the best proteins that you can take, and this is totally unscripted. Me and you didn't even know that we were both doing it.
The whole thing's unscripted,
We talking about on it. I go, that's the same shit I got. And they sent me the chocolate stuff, and you're right. I want a bigger bottle of it, but at the same time, the scoops are little scoops. So they're still about the same as our big scoops you used to get 24 grams in. I think it's like 12 grams a scoop, but it's half the size of the scoop, Steve. That's what the deal is. But I made it with almond milk, ice, frozen banana, and peanut butter. It's the best shake it's the best milkshake I've ever had. Forget your protein shake.
Yeah, but dude, check it out. When I met with the folks from On It, they came down. We went to the Firehouse in Venice because I wanted to know, dude, anytime I'm talking about something on my show, I believe in it because I've done it. So I met with Aubrey Marcus, the head of On It, and all those guys, and we were talking, and I had my whole list of stuff because I'd already done my due diligence and research. And when I asked him about the hemp protein, I said, dude, you got to understand, man, I'm a simple dude. I come from South Texas. When you say hemp, I think dope. And, so I'm thinking, like it's marijuana seeds or something. But then he goes down to break. I can't remember the exact conversation, but it breaks down like you have the male part of the plant, which produces the THC, and the female part, which doesn't, but all of the nutritional aspects of it. So it was a mind trip for me. And so I never even busted the seal on mine. But if you're going to put it over big time, I'm going to give it a shot.
If you like chocolate, and I love chocolate.
I do too.
It's almost too strong. It's so good. But if you put the peanut butter and the bananas, the almond milk, Steve, I tell you, I blend that some bitch up. I was like, fuck, this is awesome. Because I care about the taste. You know I'm a health freak.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
I'm not eating it. And that tastes awesome.
Hey, check it out. You're going to be proud of me. I've been living. A lot of people don't know, and a lot of new listeners to the show or whatever. When I first moved out to Los Angeles over 10 years, somewhere around 10 years ago, you and I lived together. I came and lived with you for what was I with you, a year and a half?
About a little over a year, and it came at a really rough time in my life because me and Kimberly had just split up. I'll never forget, because I knew you wanted to do the acting thing seriously, and me and her just split up, and I just bought that sweet place down in Playa Vista, a mile off the beach, and I was just like, fuck, man, and she's leaving me. I ain't afraid to say it. I'm sure I caused a lot of it. We're best friends today. Really, really tight. But the bottom line is, I had a huge hole in my life, and I remember calling you up, and I go, Steve, I know you want to do this LA thing. If you're looking for a roommate or looking for a place, I got a sweet ass place I just got. You got one of them rooms if you want it. And you go, yeah, well, let me think about that. And then 4 days later, remember you called me up, offer still good, kid? I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm coming out.
Well, and the thing about it was, how cheap I am because we used to travel together. I wanted to come out to L.A. to try to get into the acting thing because I'd been out of the business for about 3 years. And I was living in San Antonio. And basically, man, I was drinking and hunting and fishing, and that was it. I lived in a gated community, and that was kind of when I had that come to Jesus meeting with myself. And I said, dude, you need to get off your ass. You're 40 years old. You better get your ass to work. So, that's when I said, you'd already come out there. You'd made some headway. You were established. You had a crib, and I didn't want to come out here and get smoked on rent. So, moving in with you was a sweet deal. And obviously, I don't need a gigantic crib. We're guys. You had a nice, sweet crib over there. It was a 2-bedroom. What was it? 2.5 bath. It was just a great setup. But we're guys. You don't need an elaborate setup, man. All I was wanting was a place to take a shit, a place to cook, and a place to sleep. And that's what it was. But you had a great setup. You had your office there. But anyway, so we lived together for a long time. And back in the day, you were big into juicing before juicing got big.
Right.
There was one time, let me tell the listeners this. Dallas is so busy working on the yoga thing. We're going to get to all that later. But Dallas was such a self-promoter and investing, his time and his money in himself, his brand. He didn't have time to juice. And juicing, for those of you that do it, takes a lot of time. By the time you prepped all those vegetables, come up with the formula to stuff them in there, get all the pulp out, bottle the stuff, and you had that chick that would come over, and she would juice for an 8-hour day, put all your stuff in the freezer, and you were swearing by it. And I'm watching all this go by, and I'm thinking, man, this dude's crazy. But anyway, to make my point, Kristen and I just bought a juicer the other day, so I just started juicing. What do you think about that, kid?
Wow. Fuck.
But I got to get a recipe from you because Kristen and I threw a bunch of vegetables in the other day, and then we threw in a bunch of parsley. And you cannot overdo parsley, Mo, because it tasted like I was drinking a gigantic stink bug.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
The parsley, any of that, mint, a lot of those things, you got to be careful.
Oh, it was unbelievable. What's that stuff what's the stuff that they...
Basil?
When you're eating sushi, that stuff, ginger.
Oh, ginger,
It was a ginger root. That's what I put in there. But it was like drinking
That'll kill you.
Oh, dude, it was like drinking a liquid stink bug. So I need some of your recipes ASAP.
Well, it really comes down to, again, and anybody who's listening to this, who followed me on DDP Yoga or whatever, if it don't taste great, I'm not eating it. I don't give a fuck how healthy it is, and that's just shit. So I got some recipes for you, man, and they taste great. And what the whole thing about juicing is, it alkalines your body and puts your oxidizes your blood. It's like an anti-cancer causing effect that just makes it unfriendly for cancer and that type of diseases or inflammation. I'm so excited that you're doing it, bro. That's awesome.
Well, I'll follow up with you after the phone call. I want to jump into some business with you because I got a lot of questions to ask you. And it's funny having you on the show because you're one of my best friends and we've been traveling together for so long. And you pulled me out of so many bars, put me in bed so many times, and I mean that in a good Christian way. We're both straight. But you recently moved. You were out here in Los Angeles for about 10 years, and you recently packed up and you headed back down to Atlanta, which for a long time was your old stomping grounds. How's the transition been for you?
It's been amazing. You get so much more for your money, and we're all about that, both of us, getting so much more for your money. I got this sweet-ass crib in Smyrna, Georgia, which is on the upper north side of Atlanta. And I love it. I've got 5 bedrooms here. I've got my daughter Brittany. She's staying with me right now. She's been here for a while. Of course, Jake is here. Scott and Cody just moved out, and that's all over the internet. And I just want everyone to know Scott is doing amazing. He's living a mile from me. Came by to work out today. Was feeling a little under the weather a little bit, so we pushed it off till tomorrow. But I'm working with Cody a little bit in the ring, once a week now. It's awesome. I got all my people, because we got all the cameras here. We're filming some awesome stuff for DDP TV. I love it.
Hey, man,
I love it.
I got to ask you about those cameras in a minute, but you just said, because I talked with Scott twice now, and he was talking about young Cody. How's he in the ring right now when you're in there working with him? I know he's green, but how is he?
For 10 matches, really good.
Does he have
it? The kid got a look, for starters. He's a handsome sumbitch. He's 6'8", 260, 265, natural. His old man, Scotty, he was just a big hoss, his whole career. And this kid's just got the natural genetics. And in the movie, he's got the facial expressions. When Jake was in the ring with him, he said that, he doesn't have a quick enough step. He's missing that explosive move. And that's one of the things that I consider myself pretty damn good at, taking from nowhere to, 60 miles an hour to get that quick, fast move. So I gave him some of the stuff that I would do. And, right away, he picked up a lot of it pretty quickly. And I'm going to go back down there on Monday. And if I'm in a town, 4 or 5 days, I'll get in the ring with him. And it was fun because, Scott sees me working like 24/7, but I love what I do, so I don't consider it work. But when I was in the ring with Cody, well, I was down at power plant forever. I didn't miss a step. I was right back in it and just went right back to, working and training guys, and it was a natural. And he's a natural.
Well, so you just got back to L.A., just got back to Atlanta. Do you miss L.A. at all?
Nah, not really.
You gotta miss the weather
occasionally, but the weather, because you lived in Atlanta, you know how hot it can get, especially in the summer. It's been really nice this summer. So coming in, when you get, and you'll get out here, you get into my crib, man, it's sweet, and, I've got it's a man's house, from the 80 inches TVs. I mean, I got one of those 110-inch screens that drops out of the ceiling, bro, in my bedroom with the surround sound.
Is that a projector or a hard screen?
Yeah, that's the drop-down screen in my bedroom. But in the living room where we always got ESPN on, it's the 80-inch TV, and there's TVs everywhere. It's like a sports bar, except my daughter Brittany brought a lot of the women's touch in there, so the place still looks sweet. It's not too guyed out, but it's like God. It's not a man cave; it's a man house, and we love it. It's comfortable,
Are you glad you made the move out of L.A.? Would you have liked to stay here? It's more cost-effective over there. What are you digging more about Atlanta now?
Just the people are just so real. So much of my family is here. The people who are the backbone to DDP Yoga, everybody's here. So it just made it. And plus my doc, I had my doc work on you one time, right? Doc West?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's just unbelievable as far as, keeping my body, because at 57, I consider, guys like me and you and Nash, we're all like Ferraris or Maseratis, but we got 600,000 miles on us.
That's not good.
So I want, it's staying there and keep, taking care of my body so that I can be, someone said to me, so where is Diamond Dallas Page in the next 5 years? I said, Diamond Dallas Page is Jack LaLanne meets Tony Robbins meets a straight Richard Simmons.
Gotcha. Hey, man, so you're back in Atlanta. You got a great crib. It was a home. It is your home, but also it's called the Accountability Crib. You've got Jake the Snake Roberts over with you. He's doing DDP Yoga. He's working on staying straight. Scott Hall was in there for a couple of months. Tell me about tell us, the listeners, about the Accountability Crib and how it came to be.
Well, for starters, anybody who gets in, and I use DDP Yoga because that's our platform, anybody who gets in any kind of a program to help change their life or better themselves, because anybody can be doing really good, but you want to take it to another level, most times you need to be made accountable, and accountable to yourself more than anything.
Right.
And if you're going to fuck up, well, then, we're going to talk about it. And Jake, because Jake's the one who really started this whole thing. And by the way, there is an amazing article. I haven't even finished reading it all the way yet, but on sports, Yahoo Sports, I guess it is, yahoosports.com, and they did a title of an article called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. Jake just called me, like right before I got on the phone with you, and he said, bro, read that article. He goes, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for changing my life. And, he's really on the right path right now, strong, but he has fallen. He has fallen, from time to time. The one thing he hasn't fallen on, no coke and no crack for over 9 months now. So that's pretty fucking strong as far as I'm concerned. And out of the, I guess, 8.5 months, 9 months we've been doing this, there's a couple times where he fell. And one time was recently, and he didn't get, fucked up, but he got fucked up and, buzzed up enough to change his personality.
Right.
The deal is, I don't give a fuck who drinks, but if your goal is to not drink because it changes you, and when someone's having a real issue, like with their life, and they're, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, a different response. It just doesn't happen. There's certain things that are ingrained. And for Jake, it's like how's that drinking, mixed with the coke and the crack, how's that work for you? Oh, really badly. So why don't we change that? And like I said, he's been off the coke and the crack for over 9 months. But recently, he had fallen. And in fact, I think that was the third time, maybe it was the fourth, over the period that he's been here.
Yeah, but check it out. You got a cat like Jake the Snake Roberts, an alpha male, a very cerebral cat, a very smart cat. The wheels fall off. How do y'all have that come to Jesus meeting? Do you tread lightly when you're eating his ass out or trying to help a brother out? How does that conversation happen?
In the beginning, the first couple of times, the first time I was really pissed. Well, we got that on film, because, and the only reason I wasn't pissed that he got fucked up. I was pissed that he's saying to my face, I'm not fucked up. Right. I'm like, oh, you smoke, not smoking crack. I normally say that as a kidding, a joke, but I couldn't really use that with him. And one time I actually did say that by accident. But, if you look at DDP TV, they're back in the first stages with Jake, there's a video called The Reality Check.
Right.
And that's that whole scene, because we don't, set shit up to do things like reality TV does. We shoot shit live. And if there's something happening in the house or with somebody that in any way starts to go from being just a regular conversation to something that's different, everyone goes, stop, don't say anything. Cameras, if we don't have them. But normally, one of my guys is walking up with a camera, plus we got cameras all the way around. And the reason we do is we're filming a documentary, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, and that just happens to be the title of the Yahoo Sports article that's up today, is The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. We've changed the name to It's Never Too Late, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, because there's other people that'll come into this journey right. that we're on and explain to people it's never too late to do anything.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question.
Becoming a wrestler at 35 is just another thing for me. That it wasn't too late yet. It was my destiny. So whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, don't tell yourself it's too late. I'm too old. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. You can control and get to a certain to own your life.
Basically, stop making an excuse. Basically, stop making an excuse. But check it out, man. You guys got cameras everywhere. I mean, I've seen a lot of the videos on DDP TV. Why is this not a reality show in the making? I mean, I know you're doing your documentary, but there just seems like some great life-changing stuff going on over there. Why isn't this a reality television show?
For starters, some of the shows that have come to me to talk to me, they want to control us. They want to edit around us. They want us to do things that I'm not going to do, because no matter what, I'm going to be true to myself and to what my brand is, which is shoot reality, meaning that I'm not making shit up to make it interesting. Our lives are so interesting around that, but they want to control us. So I'm like, you know what? I'll pass. And the bottom line is I have a pretty decent-sized company right now that has come to me and want to, they're wanting to do it the way I want to do. I want to be the guy on TV that, is in whatever either the conflict or the resolution of the scene of the show that's on TV, where I go, fuck that camera. Look at me and tell me exactly what you're really doing now. I mean, I don't look at the camera, acknowledge the camera.
Well, then why don't you just take more of a producer role and have more control on creative or content and say, hey, dude, we can do this, but here's how it's going to be done. I'm going to call the shots.
And that's the goal.
That's the goal.
We're working towards that now. But the main reason we've got all these cameras here right now is because we're doing a movie. And when I first gave this to Jake had to do something on his own. I wasn't just going to bring him in and hope that I could help inspire his life. And he did. He lost 8 pounds the first time. He was at 305 plus pounds, all in his stomach. You know the way Jake wears all that weight in his stomach. And he couldn't get out of a chair. So got him eating the real food. And for me, the real food is not the genetically modified food. There's a big thing coming. Everybody's going to know what GMO is very soon. I've known what it is for 8 years now. And it's genetically modified food. They've changed what God created. And all I want people to do is go back to eating what God created. Because the real food will heal you and make you feel better. And Scott Hall is a perfect example because I had him look at the movie and watch it a couple of times, Food Inc. Another one is Genetic Roulette. You can't just say, don't eat this, eat that. Let me tell you why you don't want to eat that shit. Now, don't take it from me. Take it from that doctor who's explaining it to you, not me.
So is there
I'm just a guy.
So is there some place? Is there some place on your website where folks can get this information?
Well, pretty much everything is over on DDPYoga.com. But when you get invited to Team DDP Yoga, that's where I really get into, don't eat this food, eat that food, and here's why. I've got so many different videos up on and anybody can go join TeamDDPYoga.com. Whether you're doing DDP Yoga or not, I don't care. Because I know you're going to, if you actually become a part of it and start to really research it, you're going to get pulled into it because that's what's making people, own their lives. It's a lifestyle. That's really what it is.
Talking about a lifestyle with DDP, the creator of DDP Yoga, the guy who's changing lives all around the world. And, man, we're going to come right back with my good buddy Diamond Dallas Page. I told Page we weren't going to talk too much about pro wrestling, but I was doing my research, and I found out a lot of stuff that even I did not know about my great friend. So we're going to go into details and take some broad strokes and then focus on his feud with the one and only Randy Macho Man Savage when we come back on the Steve Austin Show with the one and only DDP.
Hey, it's Adam Carolla from the Adam Carolla Show. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch and bet on games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball as well, BetOnline has NHL, MMA, and championship boxing, all your betting needs in one place. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. So have some fun. Make these games and these events and these combat sports a little more interesting with BetOnline. BetOnline. The game starts here.
Welcome to the Steve Austin Show.
That's right, it's Steve Austin sitting on my ass in Hollywood, California, talking to my good buddy Diamond Dallas Page, catching up with what he's been doing lately down there in Atlanta at the Accountability Crib, and we're fixing to move into what I know and love and where the business he comes from. Let's talk a little bit about pro wrestling, because Dallas, when you and I were talking, this basically going to focus this conversation on DDP Yoga and how you're changing lives all over the world. But I started doing my research and, making sure I was up to speed with everything. And I found out a lot of things that I didn't even realize. And as good friends as you and I are, and as long as I live with you, some of the things just got by me. I did not know that growing up in New Jersey, where you're from, you love the Dallas Cowboys so much. That's how you got your nickname.
Yeah, it was actually my dad who gave it to me because my real name is, as you know, is Page Joseph Falkenberg. Before I changed it to Diamond Dallas, or actually to Dallas Page, But when I was a little kid, when my parents split up, I went with my dad, and he said that, he would always call himself Page 1, and he tried to call me Page 2. And he said I never really liked that. So since I was a little kid, I was a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. People either love the Cowboys or they hate the Cowboys. And my old man knew I loved it, but he hated them. He's like, "How do you like the Dallas Cowboys?" I'm a little snapperhead, But so he's, "Hey Dallas, come on, your team's on." So that's when that's where it all came from, the Landry era. Back then, and it was just a young little kid, and my dad just started to call me that, and later on, no one really knew it, growing up. And then if you remember that show, that movie that came out, Alien, it was amazing, the first movie that came out, and one of the captain's names was Dallas. And I think I was around 22 at the time, and I was trying to figure out what wrestling name I was going to use, because I decided at 22 I was going to make a shot at trying to be a professional wrestler, and I was a big Handsome Jimmy Valiant fan, so I came up with the name of Handsome Dallas Page. And,
Handsome Dallas Page. As a kid growing up, you're lucky you wasn't a San Francisco fan. I'd be talking to San Francisco Page right now. So let's talk about your start. Well, let's go down to Florida.
It worked out good for me. I always loved that name, Dallas, So the two, and I love the name Page. So some friends call me Dallas, some people call me Page, some people call me DDP, Dally, the Emperor, I go with them all.
Well, let's talk to you starting a business, because obviously you're a big fan, but you're down in Florida. You're working in a nightclub business. All of a sudden, you're in the AWA managing Bad Company, which at the time was Paul Diamond and Pat Tanaka. How in the hell did that happen, and what was your end to the business as a manager?
Well, actually, I ran this club in Fort Myers, Florida, where I met Jake before ever I was in wrestling, because, in between Tampa and Miami, Fort Myers was a spot to stop and get cocktails. And when they found out the guy who ran this club, Norma Jean's Dance Club, well, hell, he takes care of the boys. Everybody's stopping there then. But long story short, I did all my own radio commercials and shit. And I did a lot of voices and synthesizers, like this Thursday, hot legs contest. And I would throw these different voices in, or might be Macho Man Randy Savage. I would throw some of the boys into commercials. And at one point they came this Party News Network. And this video is up on DDP TV. I think it's like episode 1 or 2 or something. And it actually shows me in my 62 pink Cadillac. They showed me at doing the voiceovers at the radio station. I was wearing a WrestleMania T-shirt, and at some point they come to me and they filming me in my office, and they say, "Where does the voice come from?" And I looked down, and there was a pair of sunglasses there. And the night before, I was telling the story about how I used to wrestle, and I used Handsome Jimmy Valiant as a name. And I don't know if you ever met my buddy Smokey, but Smokey was like, "Oh, God, you can forget about that gimmick now." And we all started laughing and drinking. And that night I came up with Diamond Dallas Page, the Diamond Exchange, the Diamond Dolls, and that saying B-A-double-D Band in a drunken frenzy that night. Now, this is 4 nights earlier, and they got the cameras on me, and I look down, and all that shit's written on my blotter. And when they say, "When does the voice come from?" I grabbed a pair of sunglasses, and I threw them on, and I said, "The voice comes from Diamond Dallas Page, did it? I was born to be a professional wrestling manager." And I took the glasses off and kept talking, and a radio jock saw the promo, saw the show,
right,
called me up, asked me to come on, and I told him I don't really do it. It's just it was an idea. And he said, "Well, I'm going to have Captain Lou on my show." I was like, "Captain Lou Albano?" Huge mark for Captain.
Right.
So he figured, says I could be on the show with him. Like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. So I go on, and then I do it again with Sergeant Slaughter. And I get to talk to Sarge, and the guy he's big time in the boxing, this DJ, right? He says, "I got a friend of mine named Rob Russin. He also is a promoter for the AWA. He goes, you should send him a demo tape or something."
Jesus Christ.
So, Steve, this is no shit. And I have the video footage. It's up there on DDP TV, like in the beginning, because I showed the edited version of this. I create 3 different wrestlers. One, Big Bad John. Another, Iceman. Not knowing Iceman Parsons even exists. And a midget I called Ted E. Bear. And I put a little collar around him and dressed up the Diamond Dolls in scantily clad outfits. And I've got all these crazy outfits, from the leopard skin jacket to the zebra shit to the sequins jacket with the rhinestone ties. This shit I was wearing running the nightclub in Fort Myers and friggin' just having a fucking blast. And so I make
Dude,
these
you're
videos
out of your fucking mind. Keep going.
With storyline and send it to the AWA. And Rob Russin calls me back in less than 2 weeks. And he says, Diamond, we want to bring you in for a tryout. We want you and your boys to come in with you.
Oh.
But we got a question. I've showed your tape around, and everybody likes your shit, but no one's ever heard of you. Where are you guys working at? And I'm like, now I know I'm busted, right? I'm like, we do have one problem. I go, none of those guys can wrestle. And he's like, what? I go, well, they want to be wrestlers, and you know this for a fact. Like, becoming a wrestler, especially back in our day, it was like a secret society.
Right.
You just walked in and go, I want to be a wrestler.
You get the shit beat out of you.
Fuck, how do you do it?
Yeah.
So I said, well, those guys want to be wrestlers, and if you could set me up with a place they could train, but in the meantime, I could manage guys if you wanted that. I'm running nightclubs, dude. I'm living another dream. Booze, the broads, and the party, and when it came to partying times, I could go. And that was my job back then. And he's like, well, don't call us, we'll call you. And this is fate. Just like everything happened from where Stone Cold Steve Austin, the name comes from, all that, how all those little things just happen in life. Well, for my career, Paul E. Dangerously, a.k.a. Paul Heyman, leaves the AWA and takes the Midnight Express to the NWA.
Wow.
And there is a huge hole, void in the AWA for a young guy that can talk.
Jesus.
So Greg Gagne calls me back 2 weeks later and says, Diamond, here's what we want to do. We want you to come in and bring all those crazy clothes you have and a couple of those hot chicks that are in your video. And if you fly yourself out and we'll put you up, but if you fly yourself out, we will give you a tryout. And if you pass it, we'll hook you up and put you with somebody.
Jesus.
That's how it happened.
So what'd you say? I'm in, I'm hauling ass, and there you go. What?
Fuck, I was like, first of all, I'd never done anything like that.
Well, I know.
But
So what'd you tell the chicks? Hey, we're going to Minnie?
I called one chick that I was fucking at the time who was a smoking hot little blonde. And it's funny because she worked one time with me, but there are pictures of me and her and Bad Company that are still out there that they turn up. And this woman is the senior vice president for Visor, the friggin' the Viagra drug. She is the senior vice president of all the salespeople in North America, from Canada and America. The president, I would have seen vice president. She's of all the sales people, and she still looks amazing.
Are you saying you got
up? She was in college. I was like, baby, let's meet in Vegas. I'll bring you out. You could be on TV. She, when we got there, got sick to her stomach, couldn't get out of bed. She was so nervous. I'm like, what are you nervous about? I'm going to put a pair of sunglasses on you and some of those hot outfits you wear every night and just go out there and be a bitch.
So
That's what you got to do.
Y'all were filming the TV in Vegas.
The what? Yeah, we filmed at the Showboat.
Yeah. But so going back to the chick, you still got a Viagra hookup?
Thank God for Viagra. I'm 57.
So, but check it out. So you make your transition. You're working there in AWA, and then all of a sudden, are you driving double duty? You're going back and forth from Florida to keep the nightclub job, and then doing your TV tapings with AWA in Vegas. Is that what's happening? Because
here's what happens: they film 1 day a month.
Right.
I do 4 TVs.
That's
right. So I
right.
get a trip to Vegas with a different broad every time. You know, so, hey, baby, want to be on TV with me? You know, what's harder than that about freaking getting laid, right? And I would bring a different smoking hot chick with me every time. And it would be once a month. I took it as a vacation. You know, I got paid $150, you know, to go out there. And, you know, it's funny because Lee Marshall would become a really good buddy of mine,
Right.
and he was best friends with Classy Freddie Blassie, who to me was the guy. And I got to talk to Freddie because of Lee. Freddie loved my shtick. I actually sent him, after about 4 or 5 months of TV, edited down version of a demo reel for me, and Freddie Blassie brought my tape to Pat Patterson and had him look at my tape. And Pat said, look at him, man. He's good. He's got a good rap, but he's 6'9". He's like Andre the Giant. We can't use him.
Make the boys look small.
Right. So I was dead in New York, at that point as a manager. But it was an amazing ride. And what happened over that period is I also got to go to Florida Championship Wrestling. And Mike Graham had talked to Dusty Rhodes about me, and I went up and met with them, and Dusty brought me in as a color commentator to work with the late, great Gordon Soley.
Hey, how was it working with Gordon Soley? Because that's what I wanted to ask you about. That guy had to be a huge influence on you.
Huge, and taught me so much. Like when Dusty brought me up there, when he started to talk about me doing color, and I was like, Dusty, no, dude, I don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. I can't go out there and do color. And he's like, dude, don't worry about it, baby. Gordon gonna walk you through it all. You're gonna be the Jeffrey Ventura of the '90s. He really thought that my energy would carry it. And I learned so much from Gordon, so much so a year and a half later when Jesse was leaving New York and they were looking for a replacement, they actually brought me in for a tryout. And when I did the color, they were like, don't say baby, no, don't say good God, don't say this, don't say that. I was like, okay, so they're watering me down to do whatever. So, I did whatever the color was. Then Bruce Pritchard came in and he said to Lord Alfred Hayes, okay, now, Lord Alfred Hayes, you're going to do play-by-play, the color. Diamond, you do the play-by-play. So I know it was just a rib or to find out how much I really knew.
Right.
When I got done with that match, I wish I had it on video. Lord Alfred Hayes pushed himself away from the counter, looked at me, and he said, that's some of the best play-by-play I've ever heard. And I said, well, he goes, wherever did you learn that? I said, I've been sitting by Gordon Soley for the last year and a half. Bound to learn something, huh? So it really helped a lot. And Gordon liked to have his cocktail, under the cap.
Was he drinking during the shows? Because, he was a vodka guy. Was he drinking during the show? Was that the story with Gordon?
Well, to him, what was he, they were trying to pop Florida. There's 150 people in the studio audience. He's just having a little pop as he goes, but he was always on, boom, spot on with everything.
But then,
so, it didn't matter for him.
FCW.
But he was, I got to tell you, when Larry Smokey Genta interviewed him for my book, now this is Gordon, he friggin', we were together with Dusty, and Dusty gives Smokey Gordon's phone number. So Smokey calls him up and he goes, hello, Mr. Soley. And, Smokey grew up in Florida. So, Gordon is a god, And he calls him up and he says, I was with Diamond Dallas Page and I was with Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty gave me your phone number and they said I could call you for Dallas Page's book. Who is this? This is Larry Smokey Genta. And what do you want? And he looked at this, he's ribbing, Smokey, making him more and more and more nervous. And he goes, so you want some information on Diamond Dallas Page, do you? He goes, hold on a second. Now, Gordon must have been just sitting next to his file cabinet. So he's opening file cabinets and slamming them shut. Opening another file cabinet, slamming shut. You can hear people start... And he goes, about 3 minutes later, he comes back, he goes, Diamond Dallas Page. He said, I can't seem to find anything bad to say about him. Just busting Smokey's chops, you know. So it was a fun interview for him.
But so FCW takes a dump. They fold up. Dusty takes the book in WCW. He calls you up. He calls you up and says, Dallas, come on down. And you start managing there in WCW.
Well, that's how I got there. But he didn't call me. I developed a relationship with him over Florida while we were together in Florida. And he would actually return my phone calls. I'd never pester him, you know. I would call every couple of months just to check in. And when I heard he was leaving New York, he was a polka dotted dude then, and he was coming back to WCW, I called his wife, Michelle. She answered. If it wasn't for Michelle, me and Dusty probably never have a relationship, because she'd always go, Dusty, don't forget to call Dallas, because she liked me. And when he brought me in to manage the Freebirds. And that was pretty damn cool, you know.
Well, let me ask you something about managing the Freebirds, because, I mean, was it a deal to repackage them, make them fresh again? Because you know Michael PSA is one of the greatest talkers. You know Michael PSA is one of the best talkers of all time. How did they receive you as, hey, here's your new manager, Diamond Dallas Page?
Well, again, I was very lucky. I met Michael when they tried to put together... tried to compete with Vince, and it was the AWA, Memphis, and the WCCW were all combining together for, you know, Jerry the King Lawler, I think, beat Von Erich, I think, for the title. So there was like this road to the clash of whatever it was called, and Michael and I just happened to hook up together. And I rode in a car for 4 hours with Michael in the back seat and me and Eddie Marlin in the co-pilot and Jerry Jarrett at the wheel. And Michael, you know, because he was pissed at Jerry for, because the way he was used last time he was in Memphis. So he's telling me how Jerry hates when someone smokes in his car, and he's blowing the smoke right up towards Jerry. You know, that where it's like blatant, but you know he's doing it blatant. And we're drinking and talking, and at the end of that car ride, Michael was like, you know, I see you're in this business because you love it. You're not here because you want to be a TV star. And we exchanged numbers. And occasionally Michael Hayes would call me back. And when I came there, and Dusty put me with him and Jimmy, Michael put me over to Jimmy so strong, he said, here's what I want to do. I want both of our backs to the camera. Dallas will step in between us and cut the whole promo. And at the end, we'll just look over our shoulders and do the names. And that's what he did for me.
Dude, that's pretty heavy-duty stuff. That's pretty heavy-duty stuff, man. I mean, when you get the Freebirds and then throwing, Jimmy Garvin, that's heavy-duty stuff. You had to have been stoked about that.
Oh, my God. To me, I love to listen to those guys promo, back in the day. I mean, I would stop what I was doing if I was doing shit and they came on to talk, because they just had so much charisma. I can't imagine if Michael was wrestling today and was like maybe 23. Just his personality and his showmanship, Yeah, they were people that I love to watch. So for me to actually be with that and be on the road with those two fuckers, because that's about as senior road guy as you can get. I can remember one time, because I'm sitting in the back, right, because Jimmy's got shotgun, Michael's driving, and I put my leg through the, the gimmick where you put your arm on in the Cadillac. And they go, is your foot really up here, Dallas? I was like, my knee hurts. I just want to stretch it out. And so they're like, okay, no problem. Holy fuck, did I pull my foot back? Garvin had a fucking lighter under my foot.
The kings of the wrist. But see, dude, I used to travel with you, and I was talking with Scott Hall about you the other day, and we used to call you the world's tallest 6'4" guy because every time you rode in the shotgun seat, you didn't have any mercy for the cat behind you. You would crank your seat all the way back, and then you would lean it back. And 9 times out of 10, it was Mick Foley back there, and you had him crunched up like a slinky. Your etiquette as far as space in a car is really jacked up. What's up with that?
You know, man, I'm about comfort. Lounge chair. I'm sitting in my lounge. You know the seat I got that's got the what is it called? The astronaut seat that's, zero gravity chair. I got another one up in my room right now, bro. I'm just all laid out in my anti-gravity chair. Well, that's how I like to position my seat. Scott busted my balls the other day when we got in the truck. He goes, dude, you still are the tallest 6'4" guy alive.
Hey, you guys did the thing as the Freebirds, but then all of a sudden you hook up with the Diamond Stud. Scott Hall is put into the mix, and that lasts for a while. But according to my sources, rumors started floating around WCW that they wanted to take the Diamond Stud away from you, and it was Magnum TA who suggested that if you wanted to control your own destiny, you needed to get in the ring and wrestle for yourself. Is that the truth? Is that how you decided to ultimately get in the ring at 35 years of age?
Well, it was Magnum who told me that they weren't going to they weren't going to keep me and Scott together, and he said between the hair and the diamonds and the rap and you're sort of taking this tension away from Scott, and Scott's got to get over on his own, which he was absolutely right, because look what happened with him after that, But I was so proud to be a part of what would become Razor Ramon and eventually NWO Scott Hall. But for me, when Magnum said it, he goes, what we should have done is put you in a pair of tights and boots and see if you could do this. And he didn't laugh at me. He was like, wow, that would have been an idea. And it just resonated with me. And I went down and saw him the next day down at CNN Center, and he was like, Diamond, the only way you are going to control your destiny is actually get in the ring. He goes, but God, you're 35 years old, man, and that is no time to start. He goes, and he actually said to me, he goes, I don't know if you ever felt one of those Steiner liners, but that'll knock the shit out of you. And I said, dude, I grew up in the nightclub business. I said, I can handle my own when it comes to that. When it comes down to punishment on your body, I think I'll be all right. And then I went down there and, started doing my shit. And my first match was actually tagged with Scott Hall. And I'll never forget, he was really upset about it. And I was like, why the fuck would you be upset about this when, I'm the one who helped change your whole look and gave you this identity and everything. But what I didn't realize was he was taking a huge step down the card, to being tagged with the manager.
Right.
And later on, I would call him up and I go, hey, I totally get why you were pissed off now.
But you did so you did the favors that night. You were going down to the power plant. You were learning to work. You ended up making your pay-per-view debut in 1991 at Starrcade in a tag team match between you and your partner, Mike Graham, my old buddy. Yeah. Against Jushin Thunder Liger and the strongest man in the world, Bill Kazmaier. We're going to keep it short. But how was working with Bill Kazmaier, the world's strongest man, who at that time was extremely green? You're half-ass green yourself, but he wasn't like that was the easiest cat in the world to work with.
Yeah, dude, I just flopped around as best I could. And Michael Graham said, well, your career's over when you're being tagged with Diamond Dallas Page.
Well, it was at this period, Dallas, and you were on record as stating this. You said, Bischoff gave me the job as I was a good example of work ethic, passion, and someone that cares about the business. And since they wouldn't really book me, I went down to the WCW power plant every day I wasn't working. That's how you adapt to adversity. Even when I started to make it, I still kept going back until I was on the road 260 days a year plus. I was still going to that power plant. For 5 years I went there because that's how long it took me to get to the top. I'm talking to the man who damn near wrote the book on hard work. We're going to come back from break, talk about Randy Savage, and get into DDP Yoga. Stay tuned. We're going to go to our sponsors. More with my buddy, Diamond Dallas Page.
Hi, I'm Jessie Prey.
And I'm Andy Cassette. Welcome to Love Murder, where we unravel the darkest tales of romance turned deadly.
Our episodes are long-form, narrative-driven, and deeply researched. Perfect for the true crime aficionados seeking stories beyond the headlines.
Like the chilling case of Blanche Taylor Moore, the so-called Black Widow who left a trail of poisoned lovers.
Or the shocking murders of Chad Shelton and Dwayne Johnson, where family ties masked a sinister plot.
Subscribe to Love Murder on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Welcome to the Steve Austin Show.
That's right. You wanted the best. I got the best. One of the hardest working men I've ever known in my life. Guy I used to live with. This show goes out to the working man. I'm talking to a guy who works his ass off every single day. We talked about the 5 years that you kept going down to the power plant because that's how long it was going to take you to get to the top, Dallas. What was it like? I mean, that had to have been... You know, I know you'd been in the business for a long time as a manager, but it's got to be very humbling just to, you know, start at the age of 35 and just continue to go down to that school.
Well, starting out, you know, they want you like, and you know this because the same shit happened to you. I don't care when you start, the first thing they're going to try to do is what? Run you off.
Right.
Because if you can't handle trying to get run off, then you sure as hell can't handle our business. And they fucking busted my balls and rode me hard. And we did 500, of the Hindu squats before we started anything. And when you're doing 50 Hindu squats, you think that first that first 100, you're cool. You get to 150, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? You get to 200, 250, and you got spaghetti legs, and you know you're just getting at halfway mark, and then you got to keep going. I mean, I got to a point, because if you tell me, and you know this, Steve, you tell me you can't do something, I'm really going to jump in it then. But if you try to push me outside my box, I'm going to push myself farther. I got to where I could do 1,200 Hindu squats, and I don't think that's too good for the knees. But the bottom line is they try to run me off, and I got real humble, and I just shut the fuck up. And I spoke when I was spoken to. I took that whole Diamond Dallas Page persona and put him in a closet, and waited until it was time for me to get back out in front of a camera before I bring that back out. But when I was at the power plant, I shut the fuck up and I listened.
Now, when you're in training mode, who was leading that? Was that Buddy Lee Parker, or was that exclusively Jody working with you?
Jody was on the apron because sometimes I'd be the only guy there. Other times it'd be 20 guys. But, I was the first to come, the last to leave. And, Buddy Lee, he was the fire hydrant. He was 5'6", 5'7", 225, yoked, and he was as stiff as it could be. And you'll see if, we're just going to run this big fucker off. And they didn't. And Jody... There was a point where I was maybe 3 or 4 months in, and he said, Diamond, when you came down here, I didn't give you a shot in hell. He goes, but 4 months later, you keep doing what you're doing, you just might be lucky enough to make a name for yourself at some point down the line. And so Jody, from that point on, would take a special interest in me, and he would me.
But let me break in real quick for the people that don't know who we're talking about. We're talking about Jody Hamilton, who's one of the assassins, one of the most intimidating, well-oiled tag teams in the history of pro wrestling. And Jody would just cut a very low-key, menacing promo that would literally scare the shit out of you, make you fear for the lives of the babyfaces, and instill a desire to go buy the ticket to see the ensuing match. That's the kind of cat that Jody Hamilton was, and that's the guy that's working with DDP right now. And, hey, man, if Jody Hamilton will put a stamp on your ass, that is a hell of an endorsement.
And he was the very first. And when you say that, you got to remind the people he wore a mask.
Right.
So the facial expressions that he could pull through the mask, and when he would, there was a thing where they did much later on, like maybe a year or so after when I got down power plant, where Jody showed up with the mask on. You know, he was in the corner and Dusty was in the corner. They never touched, but what they did to, you know, the people were going crazy because those guys really knew how to work, like at a different level. And Jody, you know, he just took me under his wing, and he was the first guy. He was my first mentor. He was my first in the ring wise, and he was my first guy to really say, yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing. And then that later would come again with Jake, you know.
But once you're training at the power plant, you're working with Sarge and Jody. And you get back in the ring, you're working with cats like Scotty Flamingo. You do the deal with Vinny Vegas, and you go down with a rotator cuff injury in '92. Did you get surgery on that rotator cuff?
Oh, yeah. And that I'll never forget. Mick Foley just texted me because he's performing next Sunday at a comedy club here, and I want to bring Scott and Jake and, you know, a bunch of my buddies to go see because he's got a really funny actor, really funny. And it's getting better and better. I've seen it a couple of times. But Mick was there the day I tore my rotator cuff, and he walked up to me and he goes, "Is it the worst pain you've ever had in your life?" And I said, "Yeah, dude, I can't even lift my arm." He's like, "You tore your rotator cuff." Now I would go to the doctors. They tell me I got a bone bruise. They send me to go get an MRI. I come back. They say I still got a bone bruise. I'm like, I think I tore my rotator cuff. And they're like, well, no, we don't see that. And so, you know, I don't know if their company was trying to save himself money or what, but Lex came up to me in the gym. You know, I was just trying to do some cardio because I couldn't lift my arm up, so I was on the bike. And he came up to me and he goes, "How's your shoulder?" I go, "It's not good, dude. I can't even lift it up." He goes, "Go see my doctor." So he sent me this guy, Dr. Armstrong. He looks at my shit. He goes, "You tore your rotator cuff." I go, "That's what Mick Foley said."
Mick Foley's just standing next to you talking. What does Mick Foley know about a rotator cuff? And don't get me wrong, you and me and Mick Foley used to travel together and laugh our asses off. And Mick Foley's one of the smartest cats I've ever known in the business and has been a best-selling author and a successful stand-up comedian now. But he damn sure ain't no doctor.
But he's torn every muscle in his body.
You're right. You're right.
He might be the all-knowing Oz from when it came. All I know is he diagnosed it a week and a half before anybody else did. And the number one thing I got to do at that point is get my ass healthy because I got to get back to work before they let me go. And then Bill Watts came in, and Bill, I knew he was going to let me go. You know, so I was just like, fuck it, I might as well just friggin' get out, you know, and tell him I'm leaving and going to work my ass off to, you know, to come back and work independence and shit. And that's when Jake Roberts came back into my life.
Yeah, but Jake Roberts comes back in your life, but Bill takes over. Did he keep you on board?
No.
He shit-canned you?
Yep.
So where did you hook up with Jake at? And because I know you were taking some shots back and forth to Mexico with him.
Well, that was later. What had happened at this period, Jake had come in, and he actually come down to power plant one of the days I was there. And he was like, "Hey, you the same dude from Florida that ran that club?"
Are you kidding me?
I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I thought that was you." And then Jake was actually in the territory for about a couple of weeks, and right before Bill Watts came in, and Jake hadn't signed his contract yet, and it was for more money than he was ever going to make. And I got to go on a couple shots with him, and our car broke down. Me, Kevin Nash, and Jake Roberts, we were driving Rick Rude's pristine Impala convertible.
I know the car.
And the friggin' generator, we don't know it at the time, but the generator was loose and the fan belt, and, you know, the old school red light would come on, you know, back when they were real cars, you know, and the car fucking generator went out and the lights go out, and friggin' Kevin's in the front next to me, and Jake's in the back. He's like, "Stop fucking around, Dallas." I go, "Well, I'm not. The car just went off." So we're still driving down the road because you could do that with those cars. I turned the fucker back on. Oh, God, it started right back up again. Went off again. We're in the middle of I-10, not a light to be found. I'm legit 6'4". Nash is Jake's 6'6", and friggin' Nash is legit 6'10". Who's gonna fucking pick us up? Who's gonna help us out? And friggin' Jake just took off into the dark. And about 2 hours later showed up with a friggin' hillbilly and a tow truck, and they towed the car back to some little, who knows where the fuck it was, outside of Jacksonville, Florida. And by the time we got there, there was 25 people. This is like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And they're all them rednecks are there to meet Jake the Snake and the two other wrestlers, whoever the fuck they are.
Well, Jake comes into your life at this picture and totally influences your entire game from a work standpoint in the ring, psychology, and obviously a promo. What was it that got you and him on the same page? What did he see in you? Why was he willing to just invest, in DDP?
Well, I think it came from me first, because he just called me because I got the rotator cuff tear. I just got done with the operation. I've been let go. He hated Bill Watts, for a lot of reasons. I happen to really like Bill Watts today. But back then, he took his contract off the table. So Bill took it off the table on him. So Jake was just calling to see how I was doing. And I was like, wow, Jake, I really appreciate you calling. And he, we started to talk, and him and his old lady had split up, and he was living at a hotel. He was living at the Marriott. But that's not a big deal for us, because we're probably in Marriott's friggin' 5 or 6 nights a week anyway, you know? So I went over and saw him, and I talked to Kimberly before I left, and I said, baby, we got that room downstairs till Jake finds his own place. Maybe you would let Jake stay there, and she was like, okay. I said, I think he can really help me. I'll help him. He helps me. That was the deal. And I went over and talked to him. He said, sure, I'll come over. And I was so excited to talk to him about my stuff and couldn't wait to get in the ring with him. And he's like, Diamond, you already know more moves than you'll ever need. You know when to do them. You just don't know where to place them in the match.
Right.
And you don't know how to get over yet. So you're going to learn more sitting on the couch with me than you ever will in the ring. And, I totally got that as time went on. And he stayed with me for about 3 months. He was with me, and we got a bunch of bookings. And he would get me. It's sort of like what Scott Hall's doing right now. He gets, everybody wants Scott to do their show, right?
Right.
And they'll pay pretty good money to come. But he also wants Cody booked, which is awesome.
Right.
And he gets a decent little payoff, too, more than he's going to get working anywhere else. So that's what Jake would do for me. Jake would friggin' say, okay, I'll take that booker, and I also want you to put Diamond on, give him the curtain jerker match. And I got a lot of those. And then he said, okay, you got to talk to this guy about going to the Philippines. I want you to get yourself booked on this. I already put you over, so, you got to get yourself booked, though. So, now, we had never told Kimberly, there's no snakes in the house. There was, but we didn't want to tell her that because of the 2 cats, So I come up from out of my bedroom or something, down the stairs, and he's got a black 12-foot cobra in the middle of the living room, and Kimberly's laughing as I'm walking down the stairs. I'm like, oh, okay. I can't believe you brought that damn snake out. Don't know that Jake's got a little buzz going at this point. I don't know, And she's laughing her ass off, and Jake's doing these things with the snake, and, they're totally doing that whole friggin', that thing where the snake comes out of the basket and shit. He's doing all that shit with the snake. So, I'm on the phone with the booker. I'm on the phone for a little while. Finally, I get off the phone, come walking in. Kimberly's already in the bedroom, and Jake comes walking down the stairs. I'm like, dude, give me a high five. I go, I just booked that thing, man. And as he walks right by me, he goes, big problems, big problems. I go, what do you mean big problems? He goes, big problems. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, snake's gone. I go, what do you mean the snake's gone? He goes, I put him in the bathroom in the shower, and now he's not there. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean the snake's gone? And he goes, he's in there somewhere. I just don't know where he is. The bathroom's, maybe 3-4 feet by 3 feet. It's a friggin' half bath with a full bath, had a tub in there and shit. Bottom line is, though, we look in there, we can't see the snake. And then he goes down on his hands and knees, and he hits the vanity, and he hears, ah. Because rattlesnakes go, tss, regular snakes go, tss, cobras go, ah.
Can you make that cobra sound one more time?
Ah.
You got a goddamn cobra hanging around your bathroom. Obviously, he's defanged correctly. Correct?
No.
Oh, he's not. He's
not.
You're hanging, but he's had to have the venom thing taken out of him, right?
Yes, but I don't know that at the time.
Yeah, and I don't trust that anyway. Okay, bottom line, you got a very dangerous cobra in your crib. Continue.
So he hits the vanity. You hear the and he gets up off his knees and stands up. He goes, oh, he'll come out. And he walks out of the bathroom. I go, what do you mean he'll come out? He goes, he'll come out. He's just trying to cool off there. He'll eventually pull out. He'll get back in the tub. We'll grab him. We'll bag him up. He'll be fine. He goes, I'll be back tomorrow. I go, whoa. What do you mean you'll be back tomorrow? He goes, he's not going to come out till tomorrow morning. I'll be back in the morning. I go, Jake, what the fuck do you mean you can't leave here? He goes, Jake, I got to go. I got this girl. I got to go see her. And I can see there's a glaze over his eye.
Right.
I don't see Jake for 3 days.
Oh.
Kimberly wakes up the next morning, right? And I've got, we had those door handles that you grab and you turn, so a cat could jump up, grab the handle, pull the handle down, and open the door.
Right.
So I don't want the cats to do that. And they never go in that bathroom, but I just want to make sure that door doesn't open. So Kim's asleep, and I can't get the damn cobra, so I put the pillows in front of it so the cats can't jump up when I go to bed. Around 8 o'clock, Kim wakes up. Paige! Why are these pillows in front of the door? Because now she's realizing the snake and the da-da-da-da. And I go, well, it's not that big a deal. What do you mean it's not big a deal? Is that snake in there? And now she's screaming at me, right? Son of a bitch, Roberts, where's he at? And I say nothing now because she's cutting a huge promo on me. And where's Smokey? She's getting the cats, running around trying to find the cats. And she goes, Paige, is that snake still there? So what am I going to do? I can't babyface her, so I immediately heel on her. I go, the fucking snake's not going anywhere. He's stuck in the bathroom, blah, 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 blah. She goes, but you said he's in the vanity. He's in the vanity. I go, yeah, he's up under the vanity. He's going to come out and get in the tub. She goes, but the sheetrock, it doesn't come all the way to the ground in the vanity. What if he goes up in the wall and lays babies? I'm like, oh, my God, what if the snake goes in the wall and lays babies? And fucking she's like she's making sense. But I'm like, the fucking snake's not going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. She goes, I'm taking a cat. You tell that son of a bitch Roberts he's out of here, and I'm staying at the Ritz, and he's paying for it until he gets the damn snake out. So she fucking leaves, and, I go to the gym, right? Call back. I finally call a snake handler who comes out and pulls the motherfucker out. He goes, he got his venom in there? I go, I don't know. And he did have his venom taken out, but long story short, we got the fucking snake out. Jake Roberts was gone after that. But he really helped me a lot going up to that period. He eventually moved back with his wife, and I would take my matches and bring them to him at his house, and he would critique them for me. And he told me every time the booking committee was going to fuck me, he told me how they were going to do it and how they were going to, like the best example was when they told me they were going to give me an angle to get over on, to see if I could get over. And Jake said, here's what they're going to do. They're going to give you an angle with someone who doesn't mean anything. And then when the angle doesn't get over, they'll go, see, we tried it with Diamond, and it didn't work. And I go, well, what do you mean? Why does the guy have to mean something? And this is right around the time after O.J. killed his old lady.
Right.
And he said, Nicole Simpson. Who is that? I go, that's O.J.'s wife. He goes, why do you know that? I goes, because he killed her. He goes, but who killed her? O.J. Who's O.J.? An icon. If it was Bill Smith, do we know who Nicole Smith is? And, oh, now I get it. And that's what they tried to do. And right, when they would do it, I just tell Bischoff, I go, this is what they're going to do. And I would tell him, because having Bischoff as one of my closest friends at the time was a blessing and a curse.
Right.
On the blessing side, no one could fuck me. No one could, bury me. like to Eric, because he knew I was a stand-up guy. And if I told you something, it was the truth. And I was going to be totally honest with you from A to Z. And he knew that about me. So no one could stab me and say, oh, Dallas is trying to do this. He'd go, no, Paige isn't trying to do that. He's just trying to do this. So that was the positive side. The other side was I didn't make any money until after 1997 and 98, and that's where I got the big contract. And I didn't do the contract with Eric. I did the contract with the head of sports, of Turner Sports, Harvey Schiller.
But before we go into a break, though, you know, all the snake stories with Jake and all the shenanigans and fun and games and hassles, talking about a psychology level, how long did it take for that guy to instill Jake was a very economical performer in the ring. Everything he did was done for a reason. He didn't do anything that you didn't need to do to have a pro wrestling match. He was obviously a big influence from then on how you structured your matches.
Well, I studied, he actually had, people had given to him tapes. I had 40 full tapes of Jake Roberts from 2-hour tapes. That'd be, listen, up with that, 80 hours of Jake Roberts. And it was from job matches to Randy Savage or whoever he was working with. And I studied him, and I studied him. But I also studied Randy Savage. I also studied Kurt Hennig. I also studied Terry Funk. And there's a little tiny piece, and Dusty Rhodes, American Dream. There's a little piece of each one of those in who Diamond Dallas Page became. Obviously more Jake than anybody. And Jake had told me right before I got that booking in Singapore, the one where we lost the snake, he had put me over so strong. And this is when I wasn't on the phone. And I was like, Jake, you can't put me over that strong. I can't back that up. He said, Dallas, you're one of the most talented guys I've ever been with. He said, I see your work ethic. If your work ethic catches up to your talent, or your talent catches up to your work ethic, you could be one of the biggest names in the business. But if you can't handle the heat, you can forget it right now.
Boy, that's some good advice.
Right. And so now I had Jody Hamilton and I had Jake Roberts. And they both, neither one of those guys are going to tell you what you want to hear. And, like I say, I just learned. I just kept studying and studying. And it was no one day a light bulb. That didn't happen for a couple of more years. And then when I came back to WCW, Dusty had the book at the time, and Dusty was my mentor when it came to my business and how I did a lot of things, in wrestling, and my production end and my promo end and all of that. And Dusty just happened to be down the power plant the day before my meeting, and I got hired back by WCW. Eric Bischoff hired me back the minimum, which was $75,000 a year. That was the minimum. And that's what I got hired. 2-year deal, $75,000 a year. And when I had my meeting with Dusty, he was like, I know you've always seen yourself as this guy who had the potential to be a top guy, in our business. And he goes, I got to be honest with you. I never saw it until yesterday. And I saw the way you were, because he had put me in the ring with some guy. I said, Diamond, call a match with that guy. I just want to see what he's got. And I did. I did what we did, and he said, when I saw you down that power plant and I saw you work that, he goes, I don't know if you got the ability to be a top guy. He goes, but I know you got the ability to be a top of the middle guy. So, we're going to give you that opportunity. And so I came back with this fishbowl angle where I reach in the fishbowl and pull out the number one top players in WCW. Of course, they're all job guys. Just, trying to get cheap heat.
Right.
And after 6 weeks of that, Dusty Rhodes went on out the pasture because they weren't going to fire him because they want to give him the bids. So they just put him out the pasture and paid him. And my push went stage left, and that's where I ended back at the power plant, like pretty much full time, unless I got booked or somebody got sick or got hurt.
No, I was sitting here talking to Diamond Dallas Page. We're talking about his journey through the ranks of professional wrestling.
This has been a PodcastOne production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
This September, CBS hits are streaming free on Pluto TV.
I'm coming in hot.
For this month only, you can watch full seasons of the CBS shows you love. From the courtroom drama of Matlock to the heroics of Fire Country. Go back to where it all began in NCIS Origins, or watch the hilarious hauntings of ghosts, all for free. Full seasons of the CBS shows you love. This month only on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.